When the rangers first saw the scene, they thought their eyes were deceiving them. A fully grown leopard, sleeping peacefully between two old shepherd dogs, like a family from another world. Nobody dared to come close, but then something happened that stunned everyone. The leopard didn't snarl or bare its fangs. It looked up, wagged its tail and barked. Raised by two loyal shepherds, the leopard never knew what it truly was. But one day, nature called and it had to choose. Become a wild predator, or stay a dog, forever. It began during a thunderstorm in the hills of southern Germany. A faint cry came from behind the farm fence, barely heard through the rain. Under a torn tarp, soaking wet and barely breathing, was a leopard cub, too young to open its eyes. Shepherd dogs are cautious by nature, but Max and Bruno didn't bark or growl. Max stepped forward and gently licked the cub's head. Bruno lay down beside Idas. If he knew this little life needed warmth, not warnings. In the first few days, the cub tried to follow the dog's steps, clumsy, its tail twitching uncertainly. When Max barked at the sheep, the cub turned and tried to bark too. As the sun rose each day, the three would run through the fields together. The leopard didn't hunt. It stayed close to its brothers, herding sheep and dozing under the same oak tree. As Bruno grew older, his legs weakened. The leopard, now much bigger, would walk slowly beside him, never leaving his side. Each morning, it licked his face, just like Bruno had done long ago. Locals began calling it the shepherd leopard. Tourists snapped photos, unsure whether to feel amazed or confused. But for the leopard, only Max and Bruno mattered. That winter was colder than most. Bruno fell into a deep sleep and didn't wake up. The leopard lay beside him for 3 days, refusing to eat. Some say they heard it bark through the snow. After Bruno passed, Max rarely barked anymore. The leopard stopped running. Every morning, it sat quietly by the hill, staring at the pasture they once roamed together. One afternoon, the leopard followed a scent trail too far and wandered into the edge of the forest. There, for the first time, it locked eyes with a wild deer. Its paws lowered, shoulders tensed, the muscles remembered what it was born to do. But then, from far behind, a bark echoed. Max was calling. It turned back, ran past branches, past rocks, straight to where it belonged. Max stood waiting. They didn't need words. The leopard lowered its head and curled beside him again. From then on, it never left Max's side. The leopard helped guide the flock, barking softly, standing watch at night just like Bruno once did. The villagers began to understand. They built the leopard its own shelter right next to Max's. On the wooden gate, they carved a name, Lupo, the shepherd leopard. The leopard never hunted. It barked when strangers came near. At night, it stood guard beside the flock, loyal, silent, and proud. It didn't matter what it looked like. It was, and would always be, a dog. One early spring morning, the leopard sensed something unusual in the wind. From the forest came a growl, a wild male leopard, wandering dangerously close to the sheep pasture. The wild leopard growled, calling not with anger, but with instinct. Lupo hesitated. Behind him lay the sheep, Max. Ahead stood the wilderness, and a life he'd never known. Lupo walked forward slowly. The two leopards stared at each other. The wild one bared its teeth, expecting a challenge. But Lupo did something unexpected. He bowed his head, like a dog. Then Lupo turned his back to the wild leopard and stood firmly between the sheep and the threat. He wasn't confused anymore. He knew who he was. The wild leopard stared, then slowly stepped back into the trees. It didn't growl. It understood. This one no longer belonged to the wild. That evening, Max lay down under the oak tree and closed his eyes. He didn't wake again. Lupo stayed beside him until morning, guarding him like he once was guarded. The next morning, people heard a bark echo across the valley. But it wasn't from Max. It came from Lupo, a leopard who had chosen to be a dog. Lupo never chased deer, never hunted. He barked when strangers came near. At night, he lay beside the sheep, listening to the wind, guarding not just a flock but a memory. He may not have looked like one, but to Max, to Bruno, and to all who came after, Lupo was not a predator. He was a shepherd. He was a dog. If you believe love defines family more than blood, like this story, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.